welcome back to the Apatros review. In this episode, we check out the film Claustrophobia, which is a direct-to-video 2003 comedy thriller, so almost like horror film, from Mark Tapio Kynes. Now, I hope you like that little title card. Now, by the way, this film in Australia it was released on Imagine Entertainment as a rental-only disc, because this label serviced video stores back in the day, and there are several versions of this available around the world. There's three. There's one in Australia, which I just showed you, which I'll review the DVD after the film, and one in America, which is the best one to get because it has the 5.1 sound and the audio commentary track. And the British one doesn't have any extras on it except for preview trailers and stereo track. But the thing to note that this film was was filmed in PAL format, which is different from NTSC. Like it's a bit sharper, and because director Mark Tabir Kynes used the PAL format because he wanted to get a more filmic look. He wanted a higher resolution. It was direct to video, by the way. Now for the film, it was like I said, it was directed by Mark Tapio Kynes, made in 2003. It's a direct-to-video feature in America, and stars Melanie Linsky, Sheen Rappaport, Lynn Reitskub, Will Collier, and Judy O'Dea. Now, the story is simple. A serial killer armed with a cheap but deadly crossbow pistol is stalking an entire suburban area, prowling about in people's houses and killing people from their own rooftops. Three female co-workers trying to make the best of an aborted slumber party discover that the assailant has decided to stalk them. Hearing his footsteps on their roof, the trio attempt various plans to deal with the threatened escape. Claustrophobia, known in Australia as Serial Slayer, which I just showed you in the thing, is a low-budget comedy thriller of sorts that has been somewhat unfairly marketed as a straightforward horror film, a marketing blunder that will cause many viewers to switch off thinking they were cheated. Another case of a potentially decent film ruined by an incompetent marketing campaign. Oh, and by the way, the killer in the film looks nothing like the one on the cover. Let's say he wears a black outfit and has a substantially smaller crossbow than the seriously big one on the cover. All things considered, Claustrophobia is a rather passably neat little film. The story is straightforward enough. Three women find themselves being stalked by a mystery attacker from the rooftop, and director Mark Tapio Kynes does a fair job of mounting mild suspense. The fact that this film was meant to sort of more like a comedy thriller around the average horror film will help in the overall enjoyment factor, although you need to be in the right frame of mind to enjoy this one. The actresses all starve rather awkwardly, but build up their characters in an agreeable fashion throughout the rather slim 79 minutes in PAL format running time. The only problem is that there is very little excitement during the film. There is some modest suspense, but not really true excitement. And Kynes ultimately loses quite a bit of impact due to the extremely low budget that the film was being forward. It was shot in 9 days in a friend's house, and they had strict rules on how long they could film it. While not exactly a solid film, Claustrophobia does have some minor strengths that make it a passable effort for all concerned. Now, as for violence and gore, the killer stalks and nails his victims with a crossbow pistol. D1 radio caller during the opening credits mentions how easy it is to buy these things for less than $20. You know, in the US, of course. In Australia, we don't sell those in shops. We don't sell guns and stuff. We have very little blood, no gore, no sex, no nudity, nothing like that. Now, the DVD, my copy was from an ex-rental from a video store, was released by Imagine Entertainment, which was a specialist label that serviced rental video stores back in the early 2000s. I have quite a few of these titles, so I'll review them. The picture quality is in 4:3 in 133 aspect ratio, which is the original aspect ratio the film was shot in. It was meant to be direct to video, and yeah, and of course back then the 16:9 cameras weren't exactly available for amateur filmmakers. The picture quality is good. In fact, it's really good. I didn't see any problems with the picture quality. So if you want to go closer to the director's vision, because he shot the film in PAL format, then the Australian disc, if you can find it. Remember, this is a rental-only disc that was released back then. It wasn't really meant for like sell-through retail use. So if you can find a copy of this it's of course titled Serial Slayer. If you can find a copy of it on somewhere, it'll be pretty good to get. It has the audio commentary track and some preview trailers for other Imagine releases, but Otherwise, if you want the 5.1 sound, then go for the American disc because the Australian one only has a stereo. The British disc, which is released by Film 2000, also has a stereo track, whereas the American one is in NTSC, so that limits it. But for, I mean, naturally, they had to do it NTSC for American audiences. For Lionsgate Entertainment, that has a commentary track and some preview trailers, but that's it. The most extras you're going to get is your commentary track, which Mark Tapio Kynes actually did a pretty decent job talking about how his film crew, all from New Zealand, came over and shot the thing. And they even explain how in the beginning, the prologue was shot with Judith O'Dea, who was Barbara in the original Night of the Living Dead. They're coming to get you, Barbara. That one, the blonde. Uh, they shot that scene because they realized that they didn't have enough footage to make up a feature-length film. The film is only what 79 minutes long in PAL format. NTSC would be like longer because NTSC is 4% longer. Now, like I said, if you can't get the Australian disc, then the American one's the best bet. Info it's not in PAL format, so go for that one. Okay, if you can find the Aussie one, then as an extra rental, obviously, then that's good. Now, the film itself, um, normally I don't talk politics, but in this one, I'll just mention about the gun culture. In the US, there's an insane gun culture because the NRA is completely lost the plot. I mean, here in Australia, what happened was, I'll just explain our situation. What happened was, in 1996, there was a really bad massacre in Port Arthur where more than 30 people died, and John Howard, the Prime Minister at the time, faced off against the Australian gun lobby to introduce gun reform. And I mean, guns, we don't have like that much of a culture with guns that the Americans do. Anyway, that's the most I'll talk about that subject. So if you want to get Serial Slayer, get the Aussie one. If you can't find that, I mean, which is, I mean, possible because these discs weren't made for retail purposes, and just get the American disc if you can. All right, that's it for this review.